students. Welcome to the lecture on recruitment and selection. And after the lecture, we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the concept and meaning of recruitment. Explain the factors affecting recruitment. Understand the process of recruitment. Describe the methods of traditional recruitment. Explain the modern techniques of recruitment. Discuss about the selection. Describe the interview. Let's start with an introduction of recruitment and selection. Recruitment is the process of attracting individuals on a timely basis in sufficient number and with appropriate qualifications and encouraging them to apply for jobs in an organization. In practice, recruitment is often very demanding and seldom so straightforward. Selection is the process to decide on the individual who can most successfully perform the job from the pool of qualified candidates. The selection procedure involves the functions and device adopted in a given company to ascertain whether the candidate's specifications are matched with the job specifications and requirements or not. Let's talk about the concept and meaning of recruitment. Recruitment is the process of finding and hiring the best qualified candidate for a job opening in a timely and cost-effective manner. The recruitment process includes analyzing the requirements of a job, attracting employees to that job, screening and selecting applicants, hiring and integrating the new employee to the organization. Meaning of recruitment. According to Edwin B. Flippo, recruitment is the process of searching the candidates for employment and stimulating them to apply for jobs in the organization. Recruitment is the activity that links the employers and the job seekers. A few definitions of recruitment are: a process of finding and attracting capable applicants for employment. The process begins when new recruits are sought and ends when their applications are submitted. It is the process to discover sources of manpower to meet the requirement of the staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selection of an efficient working force. Sources of recruitment. Internal sources. Internal sources include personnel already on the payroll of an organization. Filling a vacancy from internal sources by promoting people has the advantages of increasing the general level of morale of existing employees and of providing to the company more reliable information about the candidate. External sources. These sources lie outside the organization. They may include advertisements. Advertising in newspapers, trade journals, and magazines is the most frequently used method. In order to be successful, an advertisement should be carefully written. Employment exchanges. An employment exchange is an office set up for bringing together as quickly as possible candidates searching for employment and employers looking for prospective employees. Campus recruitment. Sometimes recruiters are sent to educational institutions where they meet placement officer or the faculty members who recommend suitable candidates. Unsolicited applicants. Unsolicited applicants are another source. Some candidates send in their applications without any invitation from the organization. Employee referrals. Friends and relatives of present employees are also a good source from which employees may be drawn. Recruitment needs. Planned. The needs are arising from changes in organization and retirement policy. Anticipated. Anticipated needs are those movements in personnel which an organization can predict by studying trends in internal and external environments. Unexpected, resignation, deaths, accidents, and illness give rise to unexpected needs. Let's now talk about the factors affecting recruitment. Internal factors. The major internal forces are recruitment policy. The recruitment policy of an organization specifies the objectives of recruitment and provides a framework for implementation of the recruitment program. It may involve an organizational system to be developed for implementing recruitment programs and procedures by filling up vacancies with the best qualified people. Size of the firm. The size of the firm is an important factor in the recruitment process. If the organization is planning to increase its operations and expand its business, it will think of hiring more personnel, which will handle its operations. Cost. Recruitment incurs cost to the employer. Therefore, organizations try to employ that source of recruitment which will bear a lower cost of recruitment to the organization for each candidate. Growth and expansion. The organization will employ or think of employing more personnel if it is expanding its operations. External factors. The external forces are the forces which cannot be controlled by the organization. The major external forces are supply and demand. The availability of manpower both within and outside the organization is an important determinant in the recruitment process. If the company has a demand for more professionals and there is limited supply in the market for the professionals demanded by the company, then the company will have to depend upon internal sources by providing them with special training and development programs. Image, goodwill. The image of the employer can work as a potential constraint for recruitment. An organization with a positive image and goodwill as an employer finds it easier to attract and retain employees than an organization with a negative image. Unemployment rate. One of the factors that influence the availability of applicants is the growth of the economy. When the company is not creating new jobs, there is often oversupply of qualified labor, which in turn leads to unemployment. Competitors. The recruitment policies of the competitors also affect the recruitment function of the organizations. To face the competition, many a times the organizations have to change their recruitment policies according to the policies being followed by the competitors. Let's now talk about the process of recruitment. The recruitment process involves a systematic procedure, from sourcing the candidates to arranging and conducting the interviews, and requires many resources and time. Centralized recruitment. The recruitment practices of an organization are centralized when the HR recruitment department at the head office performs all functions of recruitment. Recruitment decisions for all the business verticals and departments of an organization are carried out by the one central HR or recruitment department. Benefits of the centralized form of recruitment are: reduces administration costs, uniformity in recruitment, interchangeability of staff, reduces favoritism. Decentralized recruitment. Decentralized recruitment practices are most commonly seen in the case of conglomerates operating in different and diverse business areas. With diverse and geographically spread business areas and offices, it becomes important to understand the needs of each department and frame the recruitment policies and procedures accordingly. Let's now talk about the traditional recruitment methods. Local paper advertisements. The best way to spread the word about new jobs is through local newspaper advertisements. One can argue that this is the simplest form of recruitment and yet the most effective method of all as well. Local employment office postings. Many organizations have employed recruitment methods which are based on postings at local unemployment offices, where there are bound to be people looking for a job, and one is likely to find all types and sorts of employees. Temp agencies. One of the most used recruitment methods is through temporary employment agencies that can shortlist potential candidates for a company and find one experienced professional in a field easily. Internal hiring. Another way of recruitment which has been extremely successful over the years has been the internal hiring program, through which the company often promotes employees who are already part of the organization into the positions for which they are hiring. Let's now talk about the modern techniques of recruitment. The employee is an integral part of the organization, and recruiting new employees who will improve the organization and take it forward is easier said than done. Over time, there have generally been two different types of recruitment methods that are employed by HR managers across the United States. One is the traditional recruitment method, while the other is the modern recruitment method. Headhunting. The company requests the professional organizations to search for the best candidates, particularly for the senior executive positions. The professional organizations search for the most suitable candidates and advise the company regarding the filling up of vacancies. Headhunters are also called the search consultants. Body shopping. Professional organizations and the high-tech training develop the pool of human resource for the possible employment. The prospective employers contact these organizations to recruit the candidates. Otherwise, the organizations themselves approach the prospective employers to place their human resources. Tele-recruitment. The technological revolution in telecommunications helped the organizations to use the internet as a source of recruitment. An organization advertises job vacancies through the World Wide Web. The job seekers send their applications through email using the internet. Business alliance. Business alliances like acquisitions, mergers, and takeovers help in getting human resources. In addition, the international business organizations also have alliances in sharing their human resources on ad hoc basis. Let's now talk about the selection. Selection in human resource management is the same as recruitment. This is the method by which the human resources HR section of the organization searches for and recruits employees to fill identified open positions within the company. The role of selection is related to its use as a tool for locating and selecting applicants to fill open vacancies in the organization. Meaning and benefits. Recruitment has been described as the process of getting the potential employees who are willing to apply for the job. A well-devised selection process is very essential for the organization because if an employee is selected once, he will remain in the company for the number of years. Proper selection reduces the rate of absenteeism and labor turnover. Selection helps in appointing competent employees who perform better at work. If suitable employees are selected, the rate of industrial accidents also reduces. Selection helps in building up the contingent workforce for the organization. Selection procedure steps. A variety of methods are used to select personnel. The selection pattern, however, is not common for all organizations. It varies from one to another, depending on the situation and needs of the organization. However, the steps commonly followed are application blank. In a sense, the application blank is a highly structured interview in which the questions are standardized and determined in advance. An application blank is a traditional, widely accepted device for getting information from a prospective applicant. The application blank provides preliminary information as well as aid in the interview by indicating areas of interest that may be useful for discussion. Initial interview of the candidate. Those who are selected for interviews on the basis of particulars furnished in the application blank are called for an initial interview by the organizations. This is meant to evaluate the appearance of the candidate and to establish a friendly relationship between the candidate and the company, and for obtaining additional information or clarification on the information already on the application blank. Employment tests. For further assessment of a candidate's nature and abilities, some tests are used in the selection procedure. If tests are properly conducted, they can reduce the selection cost by reducing the large number of applicants to manageable levels. The different types of tests are aptitude test. Aptitude or potential ability tests are widely used to measure the talent and ability of a candidate to learn a new job or skill. Aptitude tests measure ability and skills. Intelligence test. This test is used to find out the candidate's intelligence. It reveals the candidate's mental alertness, reasoning ability, power of understanding, etc. Personality test. The personality test is used to measure the characteristics that constitute personality. Interviews. Candidates are called for an interview after they have cleared all other tests. The interview consists of the interaction between the interviewer and the applicant. Checking references. The reference provided by the applicant has to be checked. This is to find out from the past records of the candidate. Reference checking requires the same use of skills as required by the interviewer and some amount of diplomacy. Final interview and induction. After the candidate is finally selected, the management will have to explain the job to him or her. He or she should be told as what their duties are, what is required of them, and what their future prospects in the organization are. Standards for selection tests. To be useful as predictive and diagnostic selection tools, the test must satisfy certain basic requirements. Reliability. Test scores should not vary widely under repeated conditions. If a test is administered to the same individual repeatedly, he should get an approximately identical score. Reliability is the confidence that an indicator will measure the same thing every time. Qualified people. A test that requires a high level of professional skills in their administration and interpretation. Professional technicians are needed for skilled judgmental interpretations of test scores. Preparation. A test should be well prepared. It should be easy to understand and simple to administer. Suitability. A test must fit the nature of the group on which it is applied. A written test comprising difficult words would be fruitless when it is administered on less educated workers. Standardization. Norms for finalizing test scores should be established. There must be prescribed methods and procedures for administering the test and for scoring or interpreting it. Work sampling for employee selection. Work sampling technique. A testing method based on measuring performance on the actual basic job tasks. The work sampling technique tries to predict job performance by requiring job candidates to perform one or more samples of the job basic tasks. Basic procedure. The basic procedure is to select a sample of several tasks crucial to performing the job, and to then test applicants on them. An observer monitors performance on each task and indicates on a checklist how well the applicant performs. Management Assessment Center. A simulation in which management candidates are asked to perform realistic tasks in hypothetical situations and are scored on their performance. It usually also involves testing and the use of management games. Typical simulated exercise include leaderless group discussion. Trainers give a leaderless group a discussion question and tell members to arrive at a group decision. They can then evaluate each group member's interpersonal skills, acceptance by the group, leadership ability, and individual influence. Management games. Participants solve problems as members of stimulated companies competing in a marketplace. They may have to decide, for instance, how to advertise and manufacture, and how much inventory to stock. Individual presentation. Trainers evaluate each participant's communication skills and persuasiveness by having each make an assigned oral presentation. Let's now talk about the interview. The interview is a conversation between two or more people, and the people who ask questions are called interviewers, and the person who answers to questions is called interviewees. The objective of the interview is to get information from the interviewee to know about his or her skills and capabilities. Types of interviews. Structured interview. Here, every single detail of the interview is decided in advance. The questions to be asked, the order in which the questions will be asked, the time given to each candidate, the information to be collected from each candidate, etc., is all decided in advance. Unstructured interview. This interview is not planned in detail, hence, it is also called a non-directed interview. The questions to be asked, the information to be collected from the candidates, etc., are not decided in advance. Group interview. Here, all the candidates or a small group of candidates are interviewed together. A topic is given to the group and they are asked to discuss it. The interviewer carefully watches the candidates and tries to find out which candidate influences others, who summarizes the discussion, who speaks effectively, etc. Exit interview. When an employee leaves the company, he is interviewed either by his immediate superior or by the HRD manager. This interview is called an exit interview. exit interview is taken to find out why the employee is leaving the company. Informal interview. Informal interview is an oral interview which can be arranged at any place. Different questions are asked to collect the required information from the candidate. Specific rigid procedure is not followed. It is a friendly interview. Formal interview. A formal interview is held in a more formal atmosphere. The interviewer asks pre-planned questions. A formal interview is also called a planned interview.
The same. You sitting in a tiny chair, your sweating hands in your lap, looking up at three brooding employers that seem to be taking far too much satisfaction in your suffering. But the truth is, there are plenty of different kinds of interviews, and they all share their own unique challenges. Here is a brief job interview guide to what could be in store for you in the process that lies ahead. 1. Telephone screening interviews. When an employer asks you to accept a phone interview, what they are really doing is screening you before inviting you into the office and wasting time and money for the real deal. Your goal in a telephone interview is always to get a face-to-face interview. Check out my article on phone job interviews to get a sense of how you can do that. 2. One-on-one interviews. Some employers will put you through a series of one-on-ones with various people in the company. Treat every interview as the first interview. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking because they made it to the second, they have already gained some ground. But each of those interviewers is someone completely new, with all the power to stop your advance right where they sit. 3. Behavioral and situational interviews. These are interviews when you will be asked to give stories about specific situations in which you use certain skills or face challenges. Be well prepared with SMART stories. You do not want to take these off the top of your head, and in fact, you should prepare stories for any of these situations in this job interview guide. 4. Stress and brain teaser interviews. It's important to keep in mind that you aren't always expected to have the best answer or completely solve the problem put before you here, although that can help. The important thing is to see how you react under stress and how your problem-solving skills are. So don't freak out and start choking out another interview because you're frustrated. Stay calm and collected. You can ease your own stress and clarify your own thoughts by sharing the thought processes you'd like to go through to solve the problem. Another nice thing about that trick is that if you don't get it right, at least the employer still gets an idea of how you solve problems. 5. Top grading interviews. This is a series of detailed interviews that analyze your specific competencies, and then the results from the different sessions are looked at and compared together. In many cases, the results will follow you into a job and become the foundation for an effort to lead you to top performance. If you're not caught off guard by the specificity of the interviewer, you will typically do much better. 6. Speed interviews. Quick and dirty, just how you like it. One good thing that can be said about speed interviews is that they are quick and to the point. No wasting words or time. Just relax and have fun with it. 7. Panel, group, and peer interviews. In this situation, address every person in the interview when you are speaking. Think back on your speech class and the tricks you were taught to engage the audience. Alternate scanning eye contact with meeting the gazes and nods of listeners and engage with other interviewees. 8. Simulation interviews. These interviews can be fun as they are more active and they are designed to allow you to show how well you would do the job. It certainly helps if you have some experience in that position, but realize employers don't expect you to get it perfect. 9. Video conference and webcam interviews. While it may be tempting to cut some corners because you like the idea of doing an interview in your socks and boxer shorts, physical appearance is as crucial as ever, if not more, in this type of interview. Less of your body language will be transferred, therefore, what you look like carries more weight. 10. Lunch or dinner interviews. Don't get too excited when you get invited to a meal for an interview. Chances are the employer is picking up the tab, but that doesn't mean you should make up for all those top ramen nights by ordering a lobster bisque and boxing up leftovers. This isn't about nourishment. Order light, pay attention to your table manners, and focus solely on the interview at hand rather than the meal. While this job interview guide paints a picture of just how varied the interview setting can be, many of the principles we draw from psychology and the art of attraction apply in all of them. It just takes a little tweaking here and there.
Did you know the first personality tests were developed in the 1920s and were intended to ease the process of personnel selection, particularly in the armed forces? Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Recruitment is the process of attracting individuals on a timely basis in sufficient number and with appropriate qualifications and encouraging them to apply for jobs in an organization. It is the process to discover sources of manpower to meet the requirement of staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selection of an efficient working force. Recruitment is a continuous process whereby the firm attempts to develop a pool of qualified applicants for the future human resource needs, even though specific vacancies do not exist. The recruiting process usually includes the advertisement of vacancies by the HR department.